Sacred geometry is not just about lines and curves, it's the hidden language of the universe. A system of patterns and ratios that appears in nature, biology, architecture, sound, and even in the formation of thoughts. It is the geometry through which the cosmos expresses intelligence. At its most basic level, sacred geometry is about form and vibration. Every shape carries a frequency. Every frequency gives rise to a shape. When these two meet in harmony, they form the architecture of consciousness. Throughout history, ancient cultures around the world discovered the same geometric truths, not through modern technology, but through direct observation, meditation, and intuition. They didn't just use sacred geometry to build temples. They encoded it in everything from religious symbols to spiritual practices. The Egyptians used precise geometric ratios to build the pyramids of Giza, aligning them with celestial bodies and mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. The Greeks developed Euclidean geometry, but also revered the Platonic solids, 5 geometric forms that they believed to be the foundation of all matter. In India, the Sri Yantra emerged, a sacred diagram composed of 9 interlocking triangles, symbolizing the balance between masculine and feminine energy. These patterns are deeply rooted in ancient Vedic Orthodox scriptures, where sacred geometry is described not only as a symbol but as a practical tool for spiritual awakening and cosmic harmony. The Vedas, some of the oldest surviving spiritual texts, discuss geometry as fundamental to the creation of the universe, linking cosmic order, RTA, to mathematical principles. Vedic texts like the Shulba Sutras contain precise geometric rules used for altar construction, showing an advanced knowledge of geometry intertwined with ritual practice. Yantras, sacred geometric diagrams used in Vedic meditation, embody cosmic principles and serve as focal points for spiritual transformation. This deep integration of geometry and spirituality in the Vedas underscores the universality of sacred geometry as a bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. In Tibetan Buddhism, mandalas became maps of the universe and the mind. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztec civilizations constructed pyramids aligned with solstices and embedded geometric ratios into their calendars. These weren't just decorations or architecture. They were tools for aligning human consciousness with the cosmic order. The connection between sound and geometry becomes obvious when we look at cymatics, the study of sound waves interacting with matter. When a surface covered in particles like sand or water is vibrated with specific frequencies, clear geometric patterns emerge. The higher the frequency, the more complex the pattern. These patterns resemble mandalas, flowers, and even molecular structures. This tells us something profound. Sound organizes matter. Frequency creates form. And since consciousness is affected by frequency, it too is shaped by this hidden geometry. Ancient chants, mantras, and sacred music, whether Gregorian, Vedic, or shamanic, often follow harmonic ratios that create order in the nervous system. Sacred geometry is not silent. It hums. One of the most recognizable symbols in sacred geometry is the flower of life, a pattern made from overlapping circles that forms a hexagonal structure. Hidden within it are the seed of life, the egg of life, the tree of life, and the Platonic solids. These shapes are not arbitrary. They are mathematically precise and appear in crystals, DNA, snowflakes, and even the way galaxies spin. The flower of life is often called the blueprint of the universe, not metaphorically but literally. It encodes space, time, and form. It is a visual key to how consciousness unfolds into matter. The Platonic solids, tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron, are unique because all their faces, angles, and edges are equal. These 5 shapes are the only perfectly symmetrical 3D forms possible. Each corresponds with one of the classical elements: fire, earth, air, water, and ether. These shapes aren't just symbolic. In modern science, crystal structures, molecular formations, and atomic bonds often follow these exact geometries. In the body, the structure of collagen, proteins, and even cellular membranes often align with these shapes, suggesting that sacred geometry is not just universal, it's biological. Perhaps the most famous ratio in sacred geometry is phi, also known as the golden ratio, 1.618. You see it in nautilus shells, sunflower seed patterns, hurricanes, galactic spirals, the human face and body, and even the DNA double helix. This ratio defines organic growth and aesthetic harmony. It is used in art, music, architecture, and nature itself. In the human brain, neural oscillations often exhibit Fibonacci-based timing patterns. In the heart, rhythms during states of emotional coherence, as studied by the HeartMath Institute, reflect this same harmonic proportion. The golden ratio isn't just visually pleasing, it seems to be a preferred state of coherence in living systems. Now here's where things get even more profound. Modern science, especially in fields like quantum biology, neuroscience, and epigenetics, is beginning to confirm what ancient traditions intuited. DNA coils according to phi. Electron orbitals follow symmetrical patterns. Microtubules and neurons, studied in the Penrose-Hameroff model of consciousness, are structured geometrically and may play a role in quantum-level consciousness processing. Biophoton emissions from cells, tiny bursts of light, often follow spatially coherent patterns. In other words, consciousness is not just shaped by geometry. It may emerge from it. Geometrical fields, like toroidal energy flows around the heart or brain, have now been mapped using magnetometers and EEG devices. These fields expand when people feel love, gratitude, or deep meditative awareness. Sacred geometry is not just spiritual art. It's a science of how energy becomes matter and how matter becomes aware. It's not enough to understand sacred geometry intellectually. It must be experienced. When we interact with these shapes through meditation, art, or even architecture, something inside us aligns. Meditating on the Sri Yantra has been shown to regulate brainwave activity. Walking through geometrically aligned spaces, like ancient temples or labyrinths, activates parts of the brain tied to orientation, memory, and emotional calm. Drawing or visualizing the flower of life, Metatron's cube, or Fibonacci spirals can bring about a sense of clarity and insight. Why? Because these patterns entrain the brain and heart to universal coherence. The ancients weren't superstitious. They were tuning their minds to the structure of the cosmos. From the pyramids of Egypt, to Stonehenge to Gothic cathedrals, sacred geometry was encoded in buildings to create resonant spaces. These weren't just places of worship. They were frequency chambers designed to lift consciousness. Modern research into resonant architecture now confirms that specific shapes and materials can alter brainwave activity, influence mood and creativity, and even regulate biological rhythms. This has huge implications for how we build our cities, our homes, and even our technologies. When geometry is aligned with universal principles, consciousness expands. When it is chaotic or dissonant, consciousness fragments. Ultimately, sacred geometry is the bridge between science and spirituality, between the measurable and the mysterious. It gives us a language to talk about how consciousness manifests, not through random chaos but through intelligent design. It shows us that the same intelligence that forms a galaxy also forms a flower, that the architecture of the atom is mirrored in the structure of a cathedral, that your thoughts, your body, and your soul are all part of a fractal intelligence, speaking through the language of form. You are not separate from sacred geometry. You are made of it. Your brain, your breath, your heartbeats, they all follow patterns rooted in universal design. By understanding sacred geometry, you're not just learning symbols. You're remembering your structure. You're syncing with the intelligence that shaped stars, cells, and consciousness itself. And maybe that's the real secret. Sacred geometry is the memory of wholeness, awakened through awareness. Please share, like, and subscribe to our channel.